Computer. All right, family, it's your brother Asad back again with another quick video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so that you'll be notified when we drop new content on this channel. Secondly, shout out to my South African family for showing all the love and support to this channel, and to my family and to myself. We really appreciate it. So right now we have a very special guest who will be discussing his transition from the United States to South Africa. This man is truly a phenomenal individual. He's traveled all over the continent to different places, and he has been a big help to us, giving us information. He's even started, I'll let him tell you about his Facebook group. But without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Brother Greg.
What's up, people? How's everybody? What's up,
Man,
Doc?
Man, thank you so much for being here, man. So Greg, you are from the United States. Tell me what part of the U.S. you grew up.
Northeast United States. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Steelers. Yeah, that's my territory. I love it. That's where I'm from.
All right. And so what kind of work did you do here when you were in the U.S.?
Okay, so I was worked for the mayor of my city, community economic development, nice little cute title, neighborhood policy coordinator. Also in the was the human resource manager. I went back to school, finished my undergrad, and ultimately a master's, and then I was human resource manager and then a human resource director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you traveled a little bit before you got to SA. So let's just jump into it. How did you end up in South Africa? How did you go from growing up in the Northeast where it's cold and it's snowing and end up in South Africa, Johannesburg in particular?
That's a great question. So I started doing missions trips. So I've been in Mexico 5 times, all over. I've been many places. And one of those places was South Africa. So that was my first trip to Africa, and that was in 2006. I can just tell you straight up, the place stole my heart. The people, the environment, it just stole my heart, absolutely stole my heart. So I knew then that I needed to be here. There was this something inside of me, it resonated with me. But in all honesty, I'm just gonna be straight up honest, I punked it for years. Yeah, I mean, I just differences in culture, stuff that was in my own head, actually. That I'm here now, I'm like, man, why did I fear this, you know? So 2006 was my first trip. 2009, I then went to Kenya. And then I went back to Kenya a couple months later, stayed with the local family. And that really was when my courage was starting to build up. I could do this, you know. I stayed with them for 14 days. And then my next trip was back to South Africa. And I made another trip to South Africa, a third trip before I relocated here. And on that trip, I also went to Uganda. So it was then that I knew, absolutely knew, I can do Africa.
Okay, I got a question I want to talk about. Sorry, it's my cell phone. Question I want to talk about Uganda and the comparisons, but I want to go back here. When you said, when you finally said, I am going to make this move to South Africa, how did your family and friends respond?
Everybody said you're crazy, right? Everybody didn't, they didn't embrace it. And anyone who's thinking to do that, you have to understand the concept of Africa that we Black Americans have has been tainted. Yeah. You know, I can remember many shows that I watched, and they say somebody with a deep voice, the dark Africa. You know, so I'm like, wow, that's ominous and scary. You know, the dark continent. And so, you know, all those things was in my head. And, like I said, those visits helped to see, and plus I met other Americans here too. And the thing that shocked me is I met a lot of white Americans living here. That shocked me.
Why is it? I had a conversation with a judge yesterday, and I said every time we're on our way to Africa, to South Africa in particular, it's a plane full of white people. It's
Isn't
the
that
strangest
something?
thing. I the black people that we do see on the plane are South Africans, like who were born and raised in South Africa, may have visited the States, but I never see us like Black Americans. So it's interesting that you pointed out that you met a lot of white Americans while you were there.
Well, I think that's why they painted it and framed it as the dark continent. They didn't want us to know the treasures that are here, because there are a lot of treasures here. And I'm talking about, financially, I'm talking about spiritually, you connect with something within yourself. And in fact, I tell people that I say, listen, you're going to have a spiritual experience. I say, what does that mean? So I'm not going to tell you. You'll know when you have it. And as I mentioned to you when you were here last, one of my friends who grew up with me, went to school with me, she came on a visit. She does travel, and I'm taking her around, introducing her to hotel executives and things of that nature. And we were in Cape Town, and she turned to me and said, I found myself. And I said, that is your spiritual experience.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I concur. I had been around to different places really around the world. My family and I like to travel. It's one of the things that we found it important to make sure that our children. Okay, just a quick story about being a New Orleanian. In 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit, there were people, and I mean large numbers, 30, 40, 50% of the people in New Orleans had never left New Orleans.
Wow.
Right? So they had never seen, I mean, some of them had gone to Baton Rouge, which is the state capital, like 45 minutes away, but they had never even been next door to Texas, Houston, right?
Wow.
So I did not want my children to be that person or to be those people. So we made it an effort, like we're going to get them out. So we started local, domestic travel, Miami and Texas and New York and DC and Colorado. But then after they were old enough, we said, okay, now it's time to start international travel or whatever have you. But that spiritual awakening that I traveled all of these different places, and it wasn't until I landed in Joburg, and it didn't even happen to me in Cape Town. I went to Cape Town first.
Okay.
It was when I went to Joburg, and I looked around, and as my wife would say, she said, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. It was like, this is
I've been to all those spots, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was it. I was like, and I love it. I love the spectrum of Black people. I love, and let me tell you, I've had wonderful experiences with the white people in South Africa. We come from the United States where we have this dichotomy, it's either Black or white, but the white South Africans have actually been phenomenal. Our colored South Africans have been phenomenal. And even though I say all the time, I kind of group them in with us because if they were in the US, they would be down with us. Yeah.
Right.
So
I agree. I agree with you. I'm sorry, brother. I agree with you. I tell people all the time, I say, man, the white people I've met here, it's gonna sound crazy, but good white people. I hate to say it that way, but they've been pretty cool white people.
Yeah, they've been pretty decent.
I bumped into one or two that kind of reminded me of somebody in the States, but very few. Very few.
And I think it's part of the fact that they live they are the minority in such a super majority of Black people. So they have to end up being real comfortable around different types of Black people. But let me ask you this. So your family thought you were crazy. Did you ever convince them that you were not? Did you ever convince them to come over and try it and see what it was like?
Not only them, but friends as well, because now everybody wants to come. Now that I've done it, everybody wants to come across the pond.
Yeah,
they want to leap over that ocean. So, yeah, I would say I convinced them by doing it. That's the best leadership action you can do is modeling the thing that you want from those you lead. So now everybody wants to come. Yeah.
So go back to this Uganda. You said you tried. You went to Uganda, and it was another place you mentioned, Kenya.
Kenya. Yeah.
Yeah. So so when you compare Uganda, Kenya, and South, why South Africa? What was it about South Africa that made you say, okay, I can make this leap, as opposed to Kenya or Uganda?
As I mentioned earlier, South Africa captured my heart. I don't know how to explain that, but it was like when you met your wife. She
Yeah,
just captured your heart, right?
yeah,
So you
she
couldn't
did.
explain it in words. You can give some words, but you really couldn't just capture that experience. Well,
Yeah.
that's what South Africa did to me. So Kenya, and then Uganda, both I enjoyed both. But the interesting thing is South Africa reminds me more of America than those other countries than Kenya and Uganda. They are much further behind than
Mm.
South Africa. South Africa is right. I mean, you've been here.
Yeah.
Johannesburg's an American city,
Yeah.
basically, except they
Yeah.
drive on the wrong side of the road. We drive on the right side of the road. But it's
Yeah.
pretty much Americanized all through and through,
Yeah.
So it's an easier transition for Americans to me. Yeah.
Definitely. I showed some footage of New Orleans on the YouTube channel, and I know the people in Joburg was like, man, I sure feel sorry for Dr. Assad. He's doing bad. Look how horrible New Orleans is. I was like, man, it has its charm. It's 300 years old,
Right.
but really, the infrastructure in Johannesburg shames New Orleans.
Mm,
Now, maybe not
mm,
Houston
mm,
or Atlanta or something like that, because those are pretty wealthy
mm,
cities. But
mm,
riding around here and riding around Johannesburg, man, no, it's really two different worlds. And you're right. I tried to explain to a few people that how to describe Josie. I was like, it's like New
mm,
York meets Houston. It has the
mm,
buildings and stuff and the people of New York, but it's expansive like Houston. You got to drive a
mm,
little bit
mm.
to get to places. All right, so how long have you been? What?
Now, I was just going to say, just as a tidbit, Johannesburg is 3 times the size of New York City.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 times the size of New York City. So to answer your other question, I've been here now 2 years, 8 months. May
Wow.
2nd will be 3 years. So
Wow.
I'm looking forward to that anniversary. Yeah,
Yeah.
so and I'm not looking to move, people ask me all the time, when you going back to the States? I say I haven't really thought about it. I do miss family,
Mhm.
sports too. I'm a sports fanatic, so
Yeah.
I'm find myself sometimes like 2 o'clock in the morning sitting up watching it or listening to an NFL game, something like that. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't miss it. Now I want to share with you, if you don't mind,
No
just the
problem.
thing that resonates with me most is, and I didn't realize that I lived with this,
Mhm.
but that African proverb, I believe I shared this with you when you were here. You can put a frog in a pot of hot water, he'll leap out.
Yeah.
But if you put him in a pot and then turn on the fire, he'll sit in there until he bursts. So
Yeah.
he doesn't feel that slow increasing pressure on him.
He's
I
cold-blooded.
have not,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I have
Cold-blooded
not
animals.
felt that here. I don't feel that here. When police pull me over or they point, hey, pull over the side of the road. I don't worry about anything. I
Yeah.
don't have that prevailing cloud like Lioness and Charlie Brown, following me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't feel that, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. I didn't even know that I lived with that until I came here, and it was
Oh, wow.
absent,
Yeah.
you know.
Hey, listen, I just used your toad. I actually did a video called The Princess and the Frog. I used Frog,
Okay.
for the Disney character. But then I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with a good friend of mine who's a psychiatrist. And we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about South Africa. He was like, man, how was your trip?
Mm-hmm.
I ran into him today. And I told him that toad story that you just mentioned. And
Mm-hmm.
I know it's real because I came back 2 weeks ago to the States 2 weeks ago. And
Mm-hmm.
the moment I landed, in fact, when we were in London, I started to feel the difference. Then when we landed in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, that pressure began to build up again. And I'll tell you a quick
Mm-hmm.
story. Last Sunday, I was driving. So I live white neighborhood, right? So I was driving, had my son in the car. He's in the back seat. We're headed out to Best Buy to get some electronics or whatever have you. And I'm driving in this my neighborhood, but it's a pretty white area. And a police officer's car from a neighboring parish, so a neighboring county, right? They have no authority here. But just because he was in that police car and he was behind me, grabbed that steering wheel, tensed up a little bit. You know, I'm so hyper aware that he is there. And it was just like
I
when he
get you.
passed by, I was just like, oh God, I'm glad he's out of my rear view, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's the type of pressure that we have to live with as Black Americans, you know. And again, when you're in, like you said, when you're in Josie, you don't feel that. I got pulled over. I didn't feel that type of pressure. So here's what I have to ask you about though. To me, it is my opinion that the greatest resource that South Africa has is the people, right?
Absolutely.
People of South
Yeah.
Africa. Now, I'm sure you've heard this when you were back in the States. Them Africans don't like us. Africans don't like Black people in America. So, have you ever experienced in your 3 years in South Africa, have you ever experienced that type of sentiment?
Not at all. Not, it's exactly the opposite. My accent darn near gets you free food in every restaurant I go to. You know, they love America, and most especially Black America.
Right.
They love us. You know, we are
Yeah.
superstars. In fact, when I lived in LA, I'll never forget this. I don't recall where the brother was from, but he was African. And he kept asking me a lot of questions after class, right? And so finally, I'm like, tell me about where you're from. And he said, oh, there's not much to tell. And then I said, so what is it about us that you like so much? You keep asking me all these questions. And he said something to me, it blew my mind. He said, you guys are our heroes. Yeah, he said, you Black Americans are our heroes. They
Mm.
look up to us and they see the things that we have come through with and, to strive to achieve. And so they see us on a plane that we don't see ourselves,
Yeah.
on a level where we don't see ourselves. And that
Hey,
blew my mind.
hey, that is amazing because it's why us? Why would you look? Do you know how bad
Right.
we doing?
Right. Now, on the flip side of that, let me be honest with you. I told you when you were here, I did a men's outreach in Pennsylvania and for 17 years. And I'll never forget when I came back from Kenya, my first trip to Kenya. And I brought the pictures and I'm sharing with the men because, I have a heart to bring Black Americans to Africa so they can experience it for themselves. So I'm showing them pictures and there was one guy there. I don't know. I mean, they don't have nothing to do with me. He's all attitudinal. And I'm like, why? I mean, what did they do to you? You
Right.
know, but I think there's a little guilt association with that, that we
Mm.
don't want to be seen as those that were dragged out of Africa and brought to
Yeah.
America. I'm disconnected from all that. I don't know. But he was very attitudinal about it.
Yeah.
I didn't
But
understand it.
I think that sentiment exists in a lot of what I would say maybe older Black Americans.
Mm,
Because the younger Black folk, this whole Black travel movement is a Black millennial thing. It's these youngsters. They're younger
mm,
than me, right?
mm,
So the
mm-hmm,
30-year-olds, the 25-year-olds, they're like, look, let me go to Ghana. They kind of
mm-hmm,
started off in the Caribbean or whatever have you, but now they're like,
mm,
let me go to Ghana, let me go to South Africa, let
mm-hmm,
me go to Cape Town.
mm-hmm,
We were in Morocco. We were in Morocco at some like palace or something like touristy thing we were doing, and there was
mm-hmm,
some
mm-hmm,
sisters, like three sisters. We knew they were from the States. The way they were dressed, the way they was talking, and they were getting they how Drake said, got to get the angles. They were getting their angles on or whatever have you. So I think the sentiment about traveling to the continent is starting to change. But you're right, there is that sentiment amongst a certain demographic of Black people who
mm-hmm,
just who see Africa again how it was painted and they don't want any association with it. I grew up in the
mm,
hip hop era where people were wearing the black medallions, the African medallions,
Mm-hmm.
and to the East.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was heavily influenced by that. That I always wanted to go to Africa. I
Mm-hmm.
always looked at it as, oh, that's the homeland or whatever have you. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some people who grew up on Tarzan in the jungle and Jane and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that. You see what I'm
yeah.
saying? And
Mm-hmm.
their ideas of Africa are quite different. So you mentioned you had the desire to bring people there. So I know you have a trip coming up, a trip planned. You want to tell the people about that?
Sure, it's Africa in 10 days now. It was scheduled originally for October 2022 this year, but we've moved it back since Omicron came along,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we moved it back to April 2023. Anybody wants to find out, they can find me on Facebook, Gregory Collier, Collier. Um, I have a page there, African Americans in South Africa. It's amazing how many more people here I'm meeting that are Black, and I'm loving it. I have, like I said, I met a number of white people that are here, and they're loving it too. But yeah, for me, it's about getting Black people here so they can get a taste of it for themselves. If you just come once,
Yeah.
just come get a taste of it, man. I think it'll change your mind, and I think you might end up being my neighbor.
No, hey, I'm telling you, once they get out of that pressure, man, don't nobody want to go back to that pressure.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I didn't start to feel better until I purchased my tickets for March. So we're back March
Wow. Okay.
11th. So
Okay.
and that time we're coming back to actually put a deposit on our place. So in fact, we found once we end this Zoom recording, we'll ask you
Mm-hmm.
about this place that we found and see what you
Okay.
think about the area. But
Okay.
yeah, so we'll be back in March, and we're bringing some folks with us. Our homegirl from college who went to university with us, and her brother.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming, and one more sister is supposed to be coming. So we got a little crew that'll be coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the brother and the other sister, this will be their first time, but the girl who went to college with us, she came with us in February of
Okay.
last year. Yeah. So
Okay.
and I'm telling you, she's a nurse, and she was like, well, I can get the critical skills visa and go back and forth. I can do some time here,
Mm-hmm.
some time there. And
Mm-hmm.
she met a young man that kind of was, very
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he was very enamored with her. So yeah, man, we're bringing some folks back, but I did not start to feel better until I booked those tickets. My wife
Okay.
was like, you were I'm always loving and caring to my wife, but she was like, you were much more loving and caring when we were in. I was like, man, I'm back in this prison. I
I
gotta
know.
be on guard.
I know. That's why I'm telling you, when they asked me, there's been several people recently, about 5 or 6, when are you going back to America? I said, that wasn't even a thought in my mind till you brought it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll come for a visit, but I'm not trying to go back to live there.
No, indeed. I got two more questions for you, because this is
Okay,
probably
brother.
it's probably a Black American who's going to watch this and who wants to know this. Cost of living. Typically, you don't have to give us your real numbers or whatever have you, but cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
How does it compare to the United States? And if somebody said a single man said, "Hey, I want to move," a single man, single woman, I want to move to Johannesburg. How much typically would they need per month in American dollars in order to survive and live well? I'm
Yeah.
telling you what.
So I came here from Dallas to South Africa, and I looked at the comparison. You can go online and do comparisons around the world, So you could say, for example, if I make 80,000 in Dallas, Texas, how much do I need to make to live as a comparable lifestyle in South Africa? And it will tell you. The American dollars is, I think it's like 17, 16, it goes up and down, 15, 16, 17 to 1. So I find things to be a lot cheaper here. There are some things that are higher, but I find them to be a lot cheaper. Like, for example, this brother loves watermelon, right? So I got a watermelon the other day. I forget how many rands, that's the South African denomination for those who don't know. I forgot how many rands it was, but when I looked it up on Google, I said, Google, how much is this? It was $1.92 for a big
Wow.
walk. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So it was like, dang. So, but in their money, they're like, oh, but nah, you do well. You're especially if you have, because I keep an American bank account in the States, and
Okay.
so that money, once I transfer it, it goes up higher, as far as how much I have. So I would say that comparable living here was comparable to living in Pittsburgh, which was very cheap in
Mm.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can buy, I bought you're not going to believe this, but I bought a 3-floor, 4-bedroom home with 2 full bathrooms, integral garage for $47,000 in Pittsburgh.
Wow. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
believe that?
No. That
So
must have been
that's pretty much.
1971.
No, that was in 2002.
Wow.
2002. Yeah. So I mean
Wow.
that's what I'm trying to tell you. It was comparable to living there. Pittsburgh is really cheap, so
Mm.
to live. So it's to me it's comparable. Now the one area that's high is they call it petrol. The
Petrol.
gasoline is
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
It's pretty high. So,
Mm.
but give or take, it's really economical. And that's
Yeah.
why so many people relocating. I mean, you could do well. I mean,
Absolutely.
you saw the houses in Dane.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you didn't see the better ones, but
Yeah.
the houses in Daneford, man. I mean, $200,000. You living in a castle.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
200 now. That's about 3 million in their money.
Hey, listen. A
Yeah,
lady showed me a 10,000 square foot. I was doing the
10,000.
most. I was doing the most. I just wanted to see it. But it was
Okay.
only like and the United and in dollars, it was only like 350,000 US
Right.
dollars. And a
Right.
10,000 square foot home, upstairs,
Wow.
downstairs, pool, and indoor, outdoor living. And I was like, well,
Wow.
I could
It
use
could happen.
10,000.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but man, but that's what I have noticed is that Johannesburg is much cheaper than New Orleans. So for instance, for like again, 1,200 to $1,300 a month, you can rent a very nice place to stay in
Very
Johannesburg.
nice.
Here,
Very
it's just a
nice.
1 bedroom. Like, yeah,
Very
$1,300 a
nice.
month, you can get like a 3 bedroom, pool upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call
Mm-hmm.
it? Not servant. They don't call them servant quarters. Maybe servant quarters
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
staff quarters,
Mm-hmm.
staff
Mm-hmm.
accommodation, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that for like 1,300 a month. And here, 1,300 a month, you get like a 1 bedroom, decent apartment or whatever have you. So it is definitely more economical to live in Johannesburg, especially if you are earning US dollars. If you're earning US dollars, you can make
Mm.
35, $40,000 a year and actually live pretty well.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yes, you could. Very well. So, the one thing I do want to kind of frame for you before we go
Mm.
is the comparisons. And anyone who has done study on American history and in particular Black American history, I can cast the blacks. So in those 3 countries that I visited, the here it remind me of the 80s when Black people were starting to hit the suburbs and the cars and the houses and all of that. They're very much there. The blacks here they're expanding. Their horizon is expanding. Their finances and all that. Kenya reminds me of the '70s, and then Uganda reminds me of the '60s going into the '70s, based on what I've read. You know,
Yeah.
um, and so when you look at it that way, it depends on you, the individual, what you're comfortable with, because again, in Uganda, if you're in the 60s going into the 70s, you know, your amenities are not going to be as prevalent.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So, but here, everything you can find in the US, you have here, you know. So it depends on the individual, what he or she is comfortable with. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I muted because my son is on. Everybody in the house is on quarantine because of
COVID.
uh COVID. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Omicron outbreak at their school. So he's in the next room on Google Classroom. And
Okay.
I can't scream, be quiet, because he's on class.
Right.
But
Gotcha.
yeah, I definitely found you said the 80s. I say, man, I see them on par in terms of amenities. South Africa
Mm-hmm.
definitely on
Mm-hmm.
par with the United States. I mean, I'm there. I was there 2 weeks on this last trip, and I can't think of anything that I could not find
Right.
in Johannesburg. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
Macro, which is literally partly owned by Walmart, right? So
Absolutely.
you can go and
Mm-hmm.
get everything you need. If you want to splurge and go to Woolworths, that's your Whole Foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you just want to
Mm-hmm.
live like everyday people, you can go to Macro. Or another brother told me about something called, I think it's Pick and Save or
Pick and pay.
Pick and
Pick and
Pay.
pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he told me
Mm-hmm.
about that. So you can even get more economical with it. But
Mm-hmm.
everything
Mm-hmm.
I needed, everything I needed. I mean, listen, brother Greg, I purchased three separate properties from the United States in South Africa because the
Yeah.
process was so familiar. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes,
I was
sir.
like, oh, this is I know exactly what's happening. I sent out a
Mm-hmm.
home inspector. I knew because I didn't have to have a bond or anything. So it was just transfer cash. I went through Remax and Rawson. Now Rawson is
Okay.
a South African thing, but Remax is all over
Mm-hmm.
the United States.
All over the United States. Yeah.
Yeah, so the brands were even the
Mm-hmm.
same. But I won't keep you, brother. I want to thank you for participating in this, man. Anything else you want to leave the South African family with or the YouTube family with?
Absolutely. Come home. Come home. Cause
Yeah,
you know, it will change you forever. That's all I'll say. It will change you forever. Just one visit will
yeah,
change you forever. Yeah.
absolutely. It did in 2019, did it for me. And now, June 2022, bam, I'll be in South Africa, man,
For
and oh,
good.
what a feeling. For good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, for good, man. Hey, I couldn't. I mean, our plan was, oh, we're gonna wait till we're 50. We're gonna wait till we're 55. We're gonna retire and go
Mm-hmm.
there. And then they started killing more black people. The police started, and then George Floyd happened. I was like, oh no, I'm good. Let me figure out
Yeah.
how to get out of here soon and quickly because I want my children. That before we go, this is what I wanted to talk about. That first
Mm-hmm.
night, you, I, and Dr. George and Warren, and I forget the other brother's name, we were sitting at Dan Fern's golf estate
Golf estate. Uh-huh.
at the golf club, the clubhouse. And I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
were paying attention to me, but I was looking around at this very beautiful property, like this whole
Yeah.
overlooking the skyline and all of this beautiful
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And you know what I
Mm-hmm.
saw? I saw a whole bunch of black people, I saw white people, and I saw
Mm-hmm.
all of them just there existing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I saw a table of some like teenagers, young black brothers looked like they was meeting with some white girls sitting down eating. I said, "Oh, that's interesting," you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, However, what I said was that when they leave from that table and get ready to walk home or drive home, they don't have to worry about a Karen calling the police on them because they are
That's
in
right.
the right neighborhood. And
Right.
so, if you want to speak on that, just the fact that there's no place in at least in Johannesburg where black people are not expected to be. If you just want to touch on,
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Texas being next door to New Orleans. Um, you know, I used to say in Texas, man, black people are everywhere here. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But here, they are truly everywhere. We are everywhere. I
yeah,
don't care where you go. And as you mentioned earlier, um, clearly accepted. And that's the thing that's so peaceful. It brings you so much peace, is that you're accepted everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I have run into very few circumstances where white people, and it wasn't me, you know, when they hear your American accent, they treat you a lot differently. But where white people may have spoken to a black person out of place. It's rare. It doesn't happen often. So I've been here almost 3 years, and I think I've seen that twice. So, you know, we are everywhere. We're accepted everywhere on every economic scale. We're there. So it's just a beautiful thing. Now, other thing is, black people know how to work together here. They know how to work together. So we could learn something from that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you, Brother Greg. Again, I appreciate you coming on. I think that you shared a lot of great information, and I think a lot of people will be impacted by what you had to say, by your story. And just another example, you, Asha, the Blantons, and all of these people who have said, you know what, I'm going to make this move and make it. And you guys are truly inspirational to myself and so many other people. I mean, I'm on my way. I will
brother,
be
come
there
on
soon.
home.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And
you're welcome.
All right.
Certainly